I am so glad that you downloaded Using Podcasts as Language Learning Tools and Rapid Fire Warm-Ups with Irregular Verbs. This is going to be really exciting. I'm going to show you how you can use my podcast specifically, Doorways to Learning with Donna, in your classes, either language classes or content classes, and then to begin every session with rapid fire warm-ups of irregular verbs. I'm going to show you how to use this incredible set that I've been working on that you can download as well. So you ready? Everything I say is always underpinned with the idea that our students are looking at the fourth industrial revolution. We are now living in the fourth industrial revolution, in which the jobs are being automated as we speak. By the year 2030, 30% of all the jobs across the board are going to be automated. So if we don't address that in our classes by either the way we teach, the way our students learn, the content that we bring into the classroom, we're not helping our students as much as we could. And we want to help our students, right? So this is always in the back of my mind as I'm teaching, and the things that I suggest are to help your students be as qualified as they can so that they out-validate technology. One of the ways we can do that, the easiest way, is to use higher order thinking questions in our class. 80% of the time, people, 80% is a lot. And 80% of the time, we are asking lower order thinking questions. That's usually what's in the books we read. That's usually in the exams that we write. I mean, we're human, and that's what we've been used to. We need to change it, but it's easier to ask lower order thinking questions. It's easier to answer them, and it's easier to assess them. And there's no question that our students need to know the answers to lower order thinking questions. However, if we're going to prepare them for the future they're facing, the future which is the present, but their professional lives, we need to push them higher. And here I have the lower order to higher order thinking questions that I call the question continuum in English and Spanish and Finnish. And I will send the template to you so you can change it to any language you want. So the objectives for this webinar are very simple. We want to augment student agency and skills for today's reality. Another way of saying, we are living in the fourth industrial revolution. We want to share activities. I'm going to share activities with you to include in podcasts in your lessons, specifically, again, for Doorways to Learning with Donna, but whichever podcasts you want. Take the ideas and run with them. And then people always ask me how I actually begin a class with my students, and how I actually begin a class is doing a 5-minute rapid fire, really exciting warm-up of irregular verbs. Exciting irregular verbs in one sentence is a paradox? No, I'm going to show you how it is not. So let's begin. If you've never been to my website, this is what the homepage looks like. And if you go to podcasts, you'll get the podcast. It begins with Doorways to Learning with Donna, and I have a lot there. And you can just pick which ones you want and go back and forth, and you're going to find activities in the show notes. We're going to start in this webinar with Russell Standard's Technology in the Classroom, ? Russell Standard is one of the educational gurus in technology. And whenever a new technology comes out, people go running to his website to find out what he says about it. And he's very humble. He says, no, I'm not an educational guru, but he is, people. He's absolutely wonderful. Whenever I need to find a new software or a new app, figure out how to use it, I go to his website, and I'm going to give you the link for it. It's in the show notes in his episode. And he explains it so easily and so clearly that it's hard not to be able to use technology in the classroom. And yet, the episode is about whether we should be using technology in the classroom. So it's an episode that I strongly suggest you use with your students because it's important to be transparent with your students. Why am I not using so much technology in class? Why am I using it this way? Let's let our students talk about that as well. So in the podcast, what I'd suggest is begin with the music. I always begin with music in my podcast and different music. And I pick it very intentionally. So we're going to listen to a little bit of it together, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay, so you heard the music. Now, which country is the music from? Your students may or may not know the answer. Let them just pick. Let them say there's no exactly right answer, although I'll tell you where it really does come from. Why might Donna have chosen this music to begin her episode with Russell? Let them come up with any answer they want. Now, just so you know, the music is Russian Polish music because Russell spends a lot of the year in Poland. His wife is Polish and their family is there. But they can come up with any answer they want. Which instruments are heard most prominently? Let them listen to it again. It's actually an accordion, but don't tell them, let them come up with it. Which genre of music is it? Let them think about it. So it's a podcast about technology, but we're talking about music, we're talking about countries, we're talking about genres of music and instruments. And now let's talk about some geometry. Which countries border this country? On which continent is it on? What's its political system? What language is spoken? What climate predominates? And which major bodies of water are near? So all of this is just in the 10 seconds of music starting the podcast. Now your students are going to be interested because they love music generally. All right? So the second thing we can do is we're going to go to the introduction. And I usually give a little bit of a summary in the introduction and some interesting, hopefully to catch your attention. Now I realize that in the beginning, these are some of my first episodes. I was a little overexcited talking about it. I've calmed down a lot, but it's important to know that I did get a little more dramatic than I needed to be in this particular one. So before we listen to it, I want the students to have a little bit of information about content and about vocabulary. So I'm going to say, how could these ideas be connected? And I give them some ideas. Free videos Russell offers and 4 awards he's won. New educational programs and apps Russell reviews. Russell's healthy subscriber list. Detrimental effects of technology use in the classroom. Our own methodology versus use of technology. And Russell's passion for learning languages. So I'm going to ask them in pairs to just talk about this. And what I've actually done is not just given them time to talk. I've given them time to talk about what they're going to hear in the introduction. I've given them concepts and academic language. So first they see it on the page. It's going to come out of their mouth. They're going to hear it from their partner's mouth. And now they're ready to listen to the introduction. Let's see if you can understand more than you thought you would have. Russell Stannard is the founder of TeacherTrainingVideos.com and a winner of 4 awards in educational technology. He's ranked as no less than one of the top 20 educational technologists by Mimeo. He puts out a weekly newsletter that has more than 25,000 subscribers and 300,000 yearly visitors to his website. And for a reason. Russell specializes in training in a range of educational online tools and is incredibly generous in uploading free videos weekly on YouTube that make these tools accessible. I know because every time I'm obligated to use a new software or app, I search Russell's site and I'm blessed with digital understanding within minutes. Stress goes down, production goes up. I think you're going to be fascinated by Russell's understanding of the dual perspectives of technology, the joys that can come from its use if we're responsible and use it to match our teaching method, and the detrimental effects it can have if valuable collaborative time for our students in the classroom is sublimated by its use. Russell speaks passionately about how technology has helped him to learn languages in more expansive and diverse ways, and how ideally it can be used in the home as just another way of learning more about the culture of whatever language we're studying. You can find more conversations about a myriad of subjects on education at Doodles with Donna, and free activities that can augment whatever methodology you might be using at home or in the classroom at scaffoldingmagic.com. Right now, put on your seatbelts because we're on a ride down the digital highway with Russell Stannard. Okay, so you may have noticed one thing. I mentioned that it was called Doodles with Donna. I've changed the name to Doorways to Learning with Donna, but it's no problem. It's all the videos, all the podcasts are in there. So did you notice that all the ideas that I have printed here, you heard them in the introduction? That's the beauty of this. They don't realize that what they're doing is talking about what they're going to hear. So they're talking about something they're going to understand a little better. They just think that they're exploring ideas, which is great. It's perfect. All right. So now we've talked about the introduction. Let's go to the main body of the lesson. And this is main body A. I have it broken up into a few parts. All right. So first, I have the minutes here. So you can actually use these activities with the podcast with your students. At minute 2:21, Russell uses the word actually to refute something Donna has said. Listen to minutes 2:10 to 2:21 and explain what he's disagreeing with and then clarifying. So I just want you to notice that I've actually done something very important here. The word actually in English can be used different ways, and I say he uses it to refute something Donna has said. If you don't know what the word refute is, I actually explain what it means. Explain what he is disagreeing with. So in the same sentence, I've used an academic term and I've also defined it, just so you are aware of this. So I'm going to ask them to explain what you think he's refuting. But before they listen, again, I'm going to give them some concepts and academic language so that they have the words to discuss this and to understand that little clip a little better. Intentionally decided to study technology. Is this what he was refuting? His background in ELT, writing photocopiable materials, concern in publishing companies about how technology would influence their business, and connect pedagogic background with knowledge of technology. So I'm asking them to first read this, talk to your partner, make sure that you understand everything going on, and then we're going to listen to it. It's 11 seconds.
Actually, no, I did do it intentionally, not to become a guru, but I did actually intentionally decide to study technology. But what happened was that, I had a background in ELT. I was working in Spain, and I was doing a little bit of publishing. I was writing photocopyable materials, and I was speaking a lot to the publishing companies. And I knew that there was a lot of kind of concern around what was technology going to do, where is it going to go, how is it going to influence their business. And I just saw that there was an opportunity for me. And I thought, well, if I could connect sort of my pedagogic background in ELT with knowledge of technology, that I would be in a good situation.
Tell me about your educational background, because I know that you didn't. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm sure that's more than 11 seconds. I put 11 seconds there. I think I probably need to correct it. But you saw that he said everything that I put in these bullet points, right? He has a strong English accent. If you're used to a British accent, there's no problem. But I'm just giving you this academic language and concepts to help you and your students feel a little more confident in listening to this, all right? And then later, the parts that maybe you didn't share with them during the activity, they'll want to hear and feel that they understand it better anyway. Let's do another part of the main body of the lesson. Again, I give here, and this is accurate, minutes 9:23 to 11:36. What do Donna and Russell disagree on regarding the use of technology in the classroom? Is it technology is not valuable in the classroom? It's erroneous to use technology in the classroom? Teachers use technology in the classroom so that they have more free time? And then I'm going to give you a little more information. What does Russell consider to be the most important reason why technology should be included in a lesson? To replace a pair or group activity? To slow down the lesson so students learn more effectively? To test the connection to the school server? If it contributes something important to the lesson. Now, I'm not going to play 2 minutes of his recording, even though I have it here. So the idea is that we actually don't disagree on any of these points. And Russell doesn't believe in any of the points in the lower one. He thinks that these are the reasons why you shouldn't use technology in the class, which I think is fascinating. But you're not going to know that until you listen to that clip. So I'm giving you, again, the academic language. I'm giving you the concepts. You listen to this. Your students listen to it, and they say, but I didn't hear them disagree with anything. What's going on here? All right? So it's a really interesting way to sort of look at this and take it from a different angle. Play with your students' minds a little bit. At the end, we always reflect. It's very important to reflect, and I can't say how important it is. I can't say enough how important it is. It helps students process. We need to find the time to do it. Whenever I work with teachers, they usually do the scaffolding, they do the main body of the lesson, and then I say, but did you do the reflection? They say, oh, I didn't have time. But the reflection is a way of pulling it all back together, asking your students to make it personal, draw conclusions, and to recycle the concepts and academic language that you've gone over. All right, so reflection is really simple, and we're going to use the question continuum to help us with this. After they listen to it, we're going to the end one here. What if? Because Russell's very big on using technology for language learning. He's learned a lot of languages through technology. So we're asking the students, what if you were to plan a lesson for yourself to learn a new language? What support would you need from your teacher? How much time would you need to study independently? What artificial intelligence would you use? When? How often? With a community of learners or by yourself? So they've heard what Russell says, and now they're going to make it personal, right? So this is a PDF that I've typed up. I'm going to upload it in the show notes for Russell, and you are absolutely free to download it and use it to your heart's content. Right? You ready for another podcast and some other great activities? All right, so we're going to use, this one is Surabhi Yadav's Million Reader Initiative. Right? And she's absolutely this incredible person out in the beautiful hills of India who is doing a bunch of initiatives with a whole team of people, and we're going to find out what that is. So Surabhi, her English is her native language, but it's a very strong accent, and where you need to break it down a little bit unless you're very used to the accent. So we're going to go to the music again and listen to it. All right, so this is very different than the one in Russell's. Which country is the music from? Just so you know, it's from India. It's a Bollywood music. It's from a Bollywood movie. Why might Donna have chosen this music to begin her episode with Surabhi? We talk about Bollywood music in the podcast. I love Bollywood movies, and she actually suggested this music. She uses this for some of her own broadcasts. Which instruments are heard most prominently? Listen again and you tell me. What language do you believe is used? It could be Hindi. It could be some of the other languages from India. She talks about this as well. How does the music make you feel? And I love these last two questions. How does the music make you feel? And how does this music compare to silence? So I did not make up this last question. I found it somewhere, and I love it so much that I try to use it. I happen to love silence, although it's never absolutely silence in the world, but I love silence, and I like music, but it has to really feel important to me to improve on silence. But that may not be the truth for everyone, so I want them to really think about it. All right, so that's how we could deal with the music, and then the rest of it, we're going to look at images to help us scaffold the podcast. So we have this boy, and he's holding a sign. And I say, what's ironic about this image? Well, there's no one right answer. There are a lot of right answers as long as they can justify them. Think about why you think it's ironic. To me, it's ironic because, first of all, it's written. We're talking about illiteracy, and it's written, and we understand it because we are not illiterate. So think about the difference between our culture, how we became literate, and these 250 million women in Asia who are illiterate. Some people might also notice that it's a boy holding up the sign. So it's just important to notice. It's a nice way to introduce the whole idea of the podcast. And what could you do to change this fact? What could you do to diminish this number of 250 million women in Asia, right? Or just blot it out so that they can read. And then I have another image. What is she doing? What is this little girl doing? Well, she's not an Indian girl. She's very pale skin. What is she doing? She's looking at a screen and she's reading. She's reading. This is, again, a hint as to what the podcast is about, but I want them to come up with these ideas. And how is it contrary to the image on the left? Well, if she's looking at the screen and reading, she's not illiterate. So what can we do to help 250 million women in Asia become literate? Does it have something to do with this little girl reading? Well, we're going to find out. All right. I also wanted to make sure that you all know how to slow down the audio in a YouTube video. So I did a very short part of one of my videos, one of the audios, because I speak very fast sometimes. I'm from New York, and when I get excited, I speak very fast. And I realized in these podcasts, I speak very colloquially. I'm speaking with other native English speakers. So, but this is a way to slow down the audio very easily. So
What would you
below.
do if 250
We just
million
go to the
people
gear.
in your country were illiterate?
We go to
What would you
velocity.
do if 600 million people in your country were at least 3 levels below
hear how it
reading
slows
level
down?
by age 10? How many of these readers could you yourself tutor? If that's your incredibly generous and philanthropic solution, my first reaction was just go and make them read. This is an incredible episode we have for you today.
Okay, so that's just to show you that in YouTube there are little tricks like this. And actually, the person who showed me that trick is Russell Standard himself for the podcast before. So now you know how to do that, just in case you'd like to play this during class, show your students. All right, so we're at the introduction. In pairs, as you're listening, I want them to listen to it, and as they're listening to it, they're going to break up in pairs and do the following. One of the students is going to write all the numbers that that person hears and her favorite sounding words. What are her favorite sounding words? Whatever her favorite sounding words are. The other person in this pair is going to write down all the easy words. What are the easy words? Any words he thinks is easy. There's no right or wrong answer here, so it brings all the stress down. You're saying, I don't mind if you don't understand everything in here. Just take notes. Just have a little bit of fun with this, all right? And then we'll talk about it. So after they do that and they listen to the introduction, which is about 3 or 4 minutes, then they put their notes together and write 3 to 4 sentences summarizing what they both heard. Right? And if you want, you can play it again because it's only 2 or 3 minutes, or they can do this at home, whichever. But it takes all the stress down, saying you're going to listen and just write down the numbers and your favorite sounds, and you're going to just write down the easy words. Try it. You're going to have fun with this.
What would you do if 250 million people in your country were illiterate?
All right, so we're not going to listen to the whole thing, but you get the idea. And then in the main body, again, we're using images before they listen to the main body. We still don't really know what the podcast is about. I'm going to give you some clues. Write 2 to 3 sentences under each one of these images. What do you think these images have to do with the podcast you're going to hear? So what is this? It's an imaginary bill. There's no dollar bill like this. This is $1 billion. I live in Spain, and so in Spain, this would be 100 million. They don't go by billions, but for our purposes, it is 1 billion. So that's one clue to what the podcast is about. And here we have the word billion, and underneath we have 3 children reading. So what do those 2 images have to do with each other? Well, you're going to see. What I'm doing now is from the images, they've talked about this, they're getting an idea of what the podcast is going to be about, and now I'm giving them the first maybe minute, 60 seconds of the main body as a transcript. And Surabi says, maybe it was a slip of the tongue. You called it a $1 billion reader. Remember the $1 billion I had in the previous slide? And I think it is a $1 billion idea. I think it's that. It's exactly that. So Billion Readers is an initiative that's producing mass literacy through entertainment content using a very simple and innovative tool called same language subtitling. It's exactly what you hear, same language subtitling. So any TV program that you're watching or entertainment content you're watching on the screen, whatever you're hearing, you can read as well. So now we are finding out what the podcast is about. And what we're going to do on the next one is 57 seconds of the podcast. I'm just going to start it. We're not going to listen to all
I love
of them.
how you, in the beginning, like maybe slip of tongue, but you called it $1 billion reader. And I think it is a $1 billion idea. It is that. It is exactly that. So, Billion Readers is an initiative that is promoting mass literacy through entertainment content using a very, very simple and innovative tool called same language subtitling. It is exactly what you hear, same language subtitling. So any TV program that you're watching or any entertainment content that you're watching on screen, whatever you're hearing, you can read as well.
Okay, so
I love how you...
Sorry, I pressed it again. So how much did you understand of it when she was talking, and how much do you think that the two activities, looking at the image and then reading exactly what she was saying, how much did that help you? How much will it help your students? From my experience, it helps a lot. All right, it just brings down a little of the stress and helps you assimilate the ideas much more easily. And then the summary, we're just going to skip way into the summary and then come back, because in the summary at the end of the podcast, I usually give about a list of what we've talked about. So in this case, I give you an image of 3 doors, and on the right is an image of, let's just say, a future. So if the same language subtitles help us with literacy, help children learn to read more fluently, maybe it'll help them stay in school longer, especially girls, and maybe they will have different futures, more opportunities in the future. That's what I meant when I put the pictures there, but let them talk about it. Let them come up with anything they want. I showed it to some teachers and they said, well, there are 3 doors and it's the middle one that's open. I thought, that's very true. I hadn't thought of that, but it's very true. So come up with whatever you want. And then we're going to go back to the main body. And I'm going to say, I'm not really big into competition, not at all. But in this case, it's not bad to give them some time constraints and say, let's see who can find these points first. Which group can find the following points in the chat first? And I'm giving you the minutes so you know where these points are. You're not going to give them to the students. The students have to listen to the podcast and find out as fast as they can where Surabhi explains why girls in India often don't have access to social media as often as boys. They have to find where she talks about how songs are powerful sources of learning a language, especially when they include same language subtitles. And they need to find where she begins talking about her own initiative that she's created herself, geared towards helping women have more diverse vocational training. So it's just a way of some friendly competition. I don't even like the word, but it's just encouraging each other to find it. And you can actually let them help each other if you want to. All right. So those are activities that you can use with Surabhi Yadav's Billion Reader Initiative. And the podcast is on my podcast page. Bet you can't wait, right? And then we end with the reflection. So after your students listen to the podcast, you'll see that I'm taking the question continuum and I'm saying, is literacy a problem in India at the moment? Yes or no? Who is most at risk in India with regards to literacy? Let them come up with whatever answer they want. It's the women, the girls. What is the critical age that illiteracy becomes extremely challenging for children? Well, you listen to the podcast and you tell me. How is Surabhi and her team addressing the challenge of illiteracy in India? And what if you were a parent in India? Would you let your children watch movies and television more often if there were same language subtitles? I think that's a fascinating conversation because I don't want my students watching more TV, but if they're learning while they're doing it, if they're becoming more literate, it's a hard argument to refute. All right. So that's Surabhi's podcast. And then the rest of them, you're going to see that I've included activities on the page. They're not as extensive. Some of the podcasts I will have extensive scaffolding, just like we've seen. Some of them will have 3 activities that are very well thought out and have to do with the topic that the people talk about. In this podcast, Katie and Anna Farinas, we're talking about Anna's struggles with mental health, and she's very open about it, and she wants everybody to know what the struggles are that she went through so that hopefully theirs will be diminished. So I'm going to click, let's see if this works. I'm not going to do the music, although what I do say is, in this case, why don't you draw? Why don't you draw the images that come to mind? Let me see what music I chose here. Ah, yeah, it's nice and jumpy. So let them listen to it. And it's another way to let them just have a little more freedom and do something different in class, to draw what comes to mind. All right? And then in the show notes, you're going to see I put 3 activities. So if I click here in the webinar, in the PowerPoint, it's going to take us right to the page in my website. Okay, so here's their episode in the podcast. There's some questions here, some information about Katie and Anna, and then we have activities to use in the class. And these are, I really thought about this, things that you can use, activities to delve into mental health, what Anna says, what maybe some of your students are going through. It's really important, this podcast, right? So that's for Anna and Katie's podcast. You'll find in the show notes. And here's another one with Elizabeth Medhurst, and she has an app that helps teenagers become entrepreneurs. And I interviewed her and I was absolutely fascinated, but I am not crazy about technology, especially in the classroom. She convinced me that this app is incredible. So I encourage you to listen to the podcast, share it with your students, and you're going to see that the activities are right in the show notes. So if you go to podcast, you're going to see Elizabeth Medhurst, Teenagers Exploring Entrepreneurship. There's some questions here, some information about Elizabeth, and actually it's free right now, her podcast, her app. And so I encourage you to go in and get some free activities there. And then I put in activities that you can use that have to do with the topic of the podcast. All right? So I encourage you to go in there. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, teachers always say, okay, so you begin with scaffolding. And I had to think about it. And I said, well, no, I don't begin with scaffolding. First, I need to get my students' minds in gear. They've been thinking about the last phone call they received, or the message they just sent, or something their parents said to them, or a teacher scowled at them. So I need to get them focused on my class, and I need to get them thinking about, in this case, English. So I do a rapid fire review of irregular verbs, and that's what I'm going to show you. Afterwards, I do a scaffold, we do the main body of the lesson, and then the formative evaluation, which are the reflection questions. Please don't forget these. Please plan and do it. You can always do it the session afterwards, but please do it. Helps recycle information. So right now I want to show you the rapid fire irregular verbs and then where you can find what I'm going to show you. These are the irregular verbs. First I divided them into colors. So there are 5 pages, 5 different colors, fairly random, but everything from now is color coded, which helps you and helps your students. These are the flashcards I made about 10 years ago. And they've lasted a long time. And what I have is the English on one side and Spanish on the other side. And you can just change the language on the other side. So you're going to get all of these sheets that you can print out and change the language wherever you want. All right, and I'm going to show you how we can use these flashcards. And I've seen classes where the teachers ask the students to print them out in black and white, and that works actually very fine. So the students can use them in flashcards, but we can also do a rapid fire warm-up with its PowerPoints. And these are 5 PowerPoints. There are 40 slides in each one because I divided 100 irregular verbs into 5 groups of 20. And this is what we do. This case, I put English to Arabic, English to Finnish, whatever. In this case, it's English to Spanish. So we would say be, and everyone together. This is in chorus. We don't want to single any student out. We don't want to say, Maria, what is be in Spanish? We don't want to say, Ilka, what is be in Finnish? No, we want everyone to be doing this together and at the same time, so that if I don't know what be is in Spanish, then I'm listening to my classmates, and the next time we do this, I'm going to remember it. So my classmates are helping me. I don't have to be embarrassed that I don't know the answer. So this is chorus. So you ready? Be, ser, estar. Begin, empezar. I was right. Buy, comprar. Everyone yells together. Do, hacer. Okay, so we're doing this, and I'm going to go through all 20 of them because after we do English to Spanish, which is easier than Spanish to English, we're going to do Spanish to English. And when we go from Spanish to English, we're going to conjugate it in English, right? So we're going to go be, was, were, been. Everyone together. Empezar. Begin, began, begun. Ooh, I got it. All the animation is done for you. Comprar. Buy, bought, bought. Everybody together says that, and then they see the word. So you're hearing bought. English written doesn't make much sense, but I'm listening to it, and now I say, oh, that I pronounce bought, right? Hacer. Do, did, done. Everyone together. All right. Okay. So we do this. There are 5 sets of them. After you do this, they last for the entire year. 5 minutes rapid fire. So those are the irregular verbs. Those are for students from maybe 6th grade to everywhere going up. I've used them for adults. It works. Once they have the conjugations of irregular verbs down really solidly, everything becomes easier for them. They can read, they can speak, they can understand much more fluently just because the irregular verbs are a stronger foundation for them. Now, let's do something a little more sophisticated. Irregular verb magic, conjugation fun. I call them conjugation fun. I'm the only one who has fun doing them. But, the teachers and the students admit to me afterwards, I didn't like it. But in the end, I saw that I could express myself much more fluently because my mind was really challenged. So here's one of them. There are 9 of these PowerPoints, each one with 10 minutes. Each one of them has, I think, 40 slides. I'm not sure. Lots of slides. All right, so you ready? So we have the pronoun we and then the verb shut. Future simple negative. We won't shut. Okay, you see, I even have trouble sometimes. Past continuous interrogative. Weren't we shutting? Oh, phew. I get very nervous sometimes. Not really. Past simple. We shut. Present continuous. We are shutting. Okay, now my mind is working a little faster. Let's go one more. The pronoun is they and the verb is beat. Present continuous, they are beating. Past continuous negative interrogative. Weren't they beating? Whew, thank goodness. Future simple negative, they won't beat. Present perfect negative, they haven't beaten. Oh my goodness, I tell you, I have fun doing this. See, that's why I call it conjugation fun. So that's conjugation fun. Those are irregular verbs. Where can you find these? People, I have them on sale for you because you downloaded this webinar, and I'm going to show you exactly where to go. You go to scaffolds. Up at the top, it says where to start about scaffolds. Click there, and you're going to see them right here. All right. So all you have to do is download them. You'll see that I have them on sale for you, 50% off. And just so that you have a little context, this is food for thought. You can go out and have lunch that lasts probably less than half an hour, and it's the same price as these verbs, which will last an entire school year, and then you use them every school year afterwards. All right. So both of these sets, half off. I encourage you to go into the webpage and get them. And then, just as a little gift to you, I'm going to play a 5-minute video of Stephanie Bacon, who is doing breathing exercises. And she is absolutely incredible. And I just want you to see how you can use breathing exercises in your lessons. Stephanie.
Hey, teacher friends. As Donna, I'm sure told you, my name is Stephanie Bacon, and I'm a teacher just like you. I'm currently heading into my 23rd year as a teacher, and right now I'm feeling really bogged down by all the meetings that we have to do right before school starts. So I'm with you if you're in that situation as well. What I wanted to do is just offer you 2 gifts to your practice this year. The first is just your authenticity. What I mean by that is recognizing what a rad human you are and giving yourself permission to show up in your full humanity every day. What that means is if something's weighing on you and you're not feeling your best, it's okay to let your students know that you're not feeling your best. Or if you're really excited about something, it's okay to tell them you're really excited. And if you're pretty stressed out, it's okay to convey that too. And then, convey the emotion and let it go. The other gift I'd like to offer you that I'll be using in my classroom this year is the gift of breath. I mean, we have to breathe anyway, so we might as well use it to reach some outcomes that sometimes we need in the classrooms, both for ourselves as a teacher and for our students. So I'm a breathwork facilitator and a teacher, but I only choose specific breath patterns out of the many for my classroom. Really, I want to decide first, am I looking to activate the students? Because maybe it's really early in the morning for middle school or high school kids, or maybe it's after lunch and the kids are feeling sleepy. And if I want to activate kids, there's a couple breath patterns that I can choose. One is called the bliss breath, and it is exhales out through the nose, snapping the belly. You may have heard of it as the breath of fire as well. And it goes like this. That breath is actually you forcing the exhale. Your body will do the inhale. So you really don't have to think about anything then. Exhaling out the nose and snapping the belly. It should wake you up after a big meal or early in the morning. The breath of fire or the bliss breath should activate either you or your students. Then I would just offer that sometimes our students are already activated, or maybe we're already activated. In that circumstance, what I'm going to offer to both teachers and students is a couple physiological sighs. You can look this up on YouTube. There's great videos about the science of how this works. And then I'll shift into a nose, in and out through the nose. So the physiological sigh first is 2 big inhales through the nose and a loud kind of letting go exhale through the mouth. And let it go. 3 usually does the charm for me, but you can do as many as you like. 1 is known to change your mental state sometimes. So let's do it again. That's it. So from that, if people are still feeling elevated, what I would do is just put on one of my favorite chill songs or something with a good rhythm and ask that students or yourself just breathe in through the nose for a count of 5 and out through the nose for a count of 5, just like this. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a balancing breath. So you've taken a sigh to bring down the activation and into a calming to calm the nervous system. And then you're continuing that calming with the nasal breathing. And at the 5 count, you are getting yourself into coherence, heart, mind, and body with an energetic space that is known and scientifically researched to be calming and energizing at the same time, but definitely leaving your students feeling ready to focus, and hopefully you too. Thanks so much for this opportunity. You are so lucky to be getting to work with Donna, and have a great school year.
All right, that was our incredible Stephanie Bacon. I really encourage you to contact her if you'd like to. She's in California. I'm giving her information in the webinar show notes. She is working with schools now to help teachers, help students make a routine of breathing, which helps enormously. Before we close, I have one more special guest for you, and this is Kristen Anker. And she does coaching for parents to bring Montessori practices into the home. And this is just a very short clip for you. And I'm going to give you the link to find all the information that she sent to me, and you can contact her as well. So if you have young children and you can use Montessori techniques at home with Kristen's help.
Area for the child to take off their shoes, maybe putting a chair there, a child-sized chair there, so they could take off their shoes, they can put on their socks. Giving a lot of time to take time for training so that we're teaching them we're doing with. A lot of this toddler to early preschool years, how can you do with? A lot of my clients will say, like, how do I get my child to brush their teeth? And it's as easy as, well, how about you brush your teeth with them? And you're Playing some music while you do it. My dentist says 2 minutes. That's a long time. But if you listen to a song for 2 minutes, you can be brushing your teeth with your child. Maybe setting up a station in the kitchen where they can get up on a chair, or where there are learning stools, special stools that is more protective for that toddler. But maybe they're peeling a carrot right along with you while you're getting the salad ready for dinner. So much, our children can do so much more than we think. But those are just a few ideas. Also within their bedrooms, maybe you have a little picture of their clothes.
All right, so that's just a short clip of a longer video that she sent. I'm giving you the links. You can contact Kristen if you want. And I just wanted to give you some more information, some more value. I really respect all of you. I really respect the fact that you're such dedicated educators. And I wanted to make sure that you have information that you can consider and include in your classes. So I hope that you've taken away some really valuable sources here. I would love you to listen to the podcast, use them in your classes. I would love you to download the irregular verbs and the conjugation fun. I really think that you're going to see a huge difference in your students. And please contact me if you have any questions. I love what I do, and I love facilitating information to all of you. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that I will see you in person in the next webinar. Bye.